welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that takes courage, meaning that the self-care goes beyond bubble baths, chocolate, and wine. It also goes beyond just looking after our body. That's where a lot of the information about self-care tends to focus on, like getting massages, exercising, nutrition, that kind of thing. And those are all super important practices and activities. And at the same time, if that's the only place that you focus, you're not going to find the energy that you are craving. I know this from personal experience. I spent years exercising and focusing on nutrition and drinking great water and getting the right amount of sleep. And I still didn't feel like I had reached that holy grail of energy where it was constantly flowing, overflowing. And it wasn't until I learned through a lot of personal development about self-care that I really found the energy that I was craving. And so now the energy is sustainable, it's renewable, and it helps me have better connection with all of the people in my life. So it takes courage. That's why I'm here, because often we can't see for ourselves what is holding us back. And so I like to be a guide. I also love to invite other guests on the show to be a guide and talk about areas that are their areas of expertise and that align with courageous self-care. So today I have a guest with me, Kat Trimarco. Kat, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So Kat, tell us a little bit about what you love to do and how you spend your time.
Yeah. Are you asking professionally or like how I spend my personal time?
Well, you could do a little bit of each or one or the other, whatever.
They're so closely intertwined because I truly do work that I love, but I'm a women's sex and relationship coach and a spiritual psychology coach, as well as an author and a speaker. So truthfully, I spend a lot of my time developing programs for my clients, working with my clients, and doing a lot of my own deep inner work to shift energy, to shift limiting beliefs. That is how I spend a lot of my time. And it might sound like it's not fun, but it's like so much of what my soul craves, which to me is true self-care, is honoring, like honoring soul calling and honoring what we truly love to do.
Oh, I'm just covered in goosebumps because I totally agree. It's totally self-care to discover who you are and what gifts and passions and talents you have, and then not keep them to yourself. It's meant to be shared. And so I feel the same way about courageous self-care. I think about it so often. I practice it. I get to practice what I preach. And that self-care to me is honoring what wants to come through us.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, Kat, I'm interested to hear what you love to do for self-care. We got into that a little bit, but what's something that you would consider to be a current self-care practice that really nourishes you and fills you up?
Lately, it's been walking outside in nature. Like at any point in the day when my energy starts feeling frazzled, or I've been behind my laptop for too long, or anything, any sort of contracted energy, I just put on my shoes and I go outside for a walk in nature. And really I consciously like connect with nature. Like I notice, wow, there's so many trees, or the grass is so green, and I smell in the air. And for me, it connects me back to my center and back to my core, because I believe that, we are all a part of this energetic ecosystem, and that helps like elevate my frequency and raise my vibration. So that's a big one. I honestly like once, twice a day for sure right now, spend time walking outside.
So powerful. It made me think of one of the mentors I had who talked about flirting with nature. So interacting with it in like using your senses and like rubbing up against a tree, or rubbing a flower over your lips, which is sounding really weird, but
you're talking to a sex coach. I like the flirting with nature.
It was uncomfortable at first when I was first introduced to the idea, but then when I started practicing it, oh my gosh, it was like trees were talking to me, and I'd never experienced anything.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's so cool. Okay, I'm going to try that in my next walk. I'm going to consciously flirt with nature.
Hey, grass.
Hey. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah. And before we started the interview, we were talking about how you had moved from Edmonton to LA. And so I'm curious, do you go outside more now than you did when you lived in Edmonton?
Oh yeah, way more. If anyone is from Edmonton or who has been there, it's incredibly cold. So yeah, I definitely spend way more time outside. And truthfully, like that move was also me honoring my soul. So I feel I'm more aligned, not just because of my physical location now, but just who I've become in my internal journey from living there to living here. So I think I'm just more in tune and honoring, like listening to my body, listening to what I need moment to moment. And so I think that's part of it too. I don't know if I was still in that city, if maybe I would be spending more time outside, because it's like the internal shift has been so different, as well as like actually physically moving locations.
Yeah, what you're saying is so powerful. It's there's 12 skill sets of courageous self-care that I've uncovered and put together and teach. And learning how to listen to and access and trust your intuition and then acting on it is one of them. And so what you're saying with this self-care practice of going outside and being with nature, you're able to do it more as a result of tuning into that deep knowing and calling inside of you. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, I want to be like, can we talk about that more? Because I feel like people know they have intuition. People are probably more tapped into their intuition than they know. And the mastery to me is learning how to take action and follow it. And that piece, I actually have a chapter in my book that's one chapter is following your guidance, and the next chapter is taking inspired action, because we need both of them to dance together. They have to play together, and we have to take action on the nudges that we get. And I think that that's where so many people can kind of wake up midlife and feel like, oh my God, I'm living a lie, or I'm not living, like this isn't me. And it's because I really believe that we have a calling to bring forth what's inside of us and live that expression outwardly, like live that in the tangible. And I think that's the disconnect for a lot of people, is it's like the feeling or maybe even the inner connection, but still kind of going through motions in life that aren't aligned with that. And that freaking does take courage, because when we follow that, we can't see what's around the corner. We can't see how things are going to pan out. When I moved to LA, I didn't know, it's like I couldn't see all the next steps unfolding. And it's a constant process of tuning in, taking action and trusting, tuning in, taking action and trusting. And that's like become a lifestyle for me. And what I help teach people a lot is because it's the missing piece for so many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've really been, I've noticed the next, how can I say it? Like there's intuition, and then there's the beyond that even of, I have cultivated the ability to hear my intuition and trust it. And then there's the next layer, that's the word I'm looking for, of asking my family to buy into it too. Like, okay, I've had this inspiration and now it's going to affect all of us. And are you on board with me? And that's where some of the most terrifying moments have come, even though we have close relationships and we all love each other. Going beyond, like, I know this is scary for me, it's going to be scary for you. And even just bringing voice to that has been the next level up of intuition. So that's what I've been experimenting with lately. And oh yeah, it's been scary.
That's amazing. I can't relate personally, because I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm single. I do everything by myself. So it's like, I can just like, I want to do this and follow it. And I'm like imagining into that must be a whole nother level, or as you said, layer of of trusting self and taking action when there's other people involved. So
Yeah.
I
I've
commend you
caused
for
us
that.
to move a bunch of times and leave the comfort of where we've created, like all within Calgary. But I have gypsy heritage and I like to move. And so just saying to my family, okay, I think it's time that we should move and uproot everything. And they're like, oh, we're happy here. I'm like, but I'm getting this guidance, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
very interesting. Thank you for expanding on that and touching on those points, because there's walking in nature, and then there's all the decisions that made you be able to do that are really a reflection of what courageous self-care is. So thanks for expanding on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we are going to take a quick commercial break and we will come back, and when we arrive back, we're going to hear Kat's story of courage. Super excited, so be sure to stick around. All right, we are still here. You're still here. Things are jiving. It is awesome, because now we're going to hear Kat's story of courage. And just before you do that, Kat, there's lots of reasons I like to get guests to share a story of courage. But the reason that feels important to share right now, just in case you're wondering why on earth is this happening, the reason is that courage it's so many things. It's described as a value, a skill set, a muscle. It's also an energy. And so many people, I think, perceive it to be outside of themselves. But when we hear stories of courage, it gives us new ideas. It gives us confirmation that great things happen when we exit the comfort zone. And so that's one of the reasons why I love to hear various stories of courage. And they're all so, like, it's a way to have a conversation that's elevated. So many people connect over complaining and gossip and low-level conversations, and I just love to get to know people through elevated conversations. So I'm giving you an example of how to have great conversations in your life, dear listeners. It is super easy. Well, it might take courage, but once you get used to it, it is so much better to connect with people over high-level conversations than the standard. So having said that, Kat, what would you love to share with us?
Yeah, first I would love to share like what I define courage as, and that is the ability to follow the inner voice, to follow my inner impulse above and beyond what I can physically, tangibly see manifested around me externally, and to follow that beyond what other people are saying, what other people's beliefs or judgments might be about the action I'm taking. And that has served me very, very well. Aside from moving to a new country being an act of courage, my biggest one is actually what my whole book is based off of. And almost 6 years ago, I got sober. I walked away from drugs and alcohol after 10 years of abuse. And I was in a relationship with an addict. My life had really started to revolve around helping him and trying to get him better and trying to get him into detox, trying to get him into rehab. And I loved him so much. It was like on this deeper spiritual level, we had a deep, deep connection. But in the physical world reality, it was so incredibly dysfunctional. And of course, like, it's hard to see that when you're in the middle of it because it feels kind of normal. But I walked away from that relationship and I got sober, and I really just made a decision to follow that inner voice, to follow a deeper soul calling that was calling me forward, but I didn't know where it was leading. And I mean, within it's incredibly challenging to walk away from an entire lifestyle. I had to walk away from everything I knew in terms of being able to socialize with people. I walked away from my friend circle. I walked away from my relationship. The only solid at that point in my life was my job. And I thank God every day for that, because it's what gave me the stability for something to hold on to wake up in the morning and go to work. I was a hairstylist for 13 years and be in service to other people. It took me out of my own way. It took me out of my own pain that I was going through at that time. And shortly after, my partner died. And I share that the whole story and the whole journey in my book is pretty incredible. And it's what has sent me on the trajectory of the work I do now with people, and just everything in my life. Like it really was this like falling apart of my life. But it was the decisions that I made in those times, externally and internally. And I really want to hit on this piece because it's so important, is when all that was happening, I decided inside of myself that this was going to send my life in a positive direction. I decided that this was my launching off pad into something greater, both my sobriety, the ending of the relationship, and his death. Each one of those, I decided like, this can ruin me, or I can use this for good. I can use this to inspire other people. I can use this to elevate into my purpose. And so there were physical actions involved then of like, I mean, physically having to walk away from the relationship, having to walk away from drugs and alcohol. But just as equal to that was the inner decision of, I am deciding what this means about me moving forward. I'm deciding who I am now. And I stood firm in that. And I let relationships crumble around me. And again, it was a holding to that inner, I know there's something inside of me and I'm holding to that as truth, as opposed to what other people are telling me, or as opposed to what's falling apart around me. And to me, that's true courage, because we don't have control over what's happening externally very often.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I want to acknowledge you for where you have come from, that place that sounds really challenging and overwhelming. And I think what you said that's so important is it truly comes down to a decision. Yes, we can build habits. Yes, we can stop behaving and acting in certain ways that we were before. And ultimately, it comes from being resolute in one decision. And there's so much information on how to move through addiction and how to move through loss, but truly it starts with a decision. And it sounds like your decision, like you said, was that launching pad for recreation.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's definitely, our decision is so powerful, so powerful. And within that too, I would say self-identity, because we learn to develop our identity based on what other people see in us, based on our families, based on the way society sees us. And when we buy into that identity, we can't change. And this is my biggest message around addiction, is people have such a hard time breaking free of addiction because they're identified with being an addict, and people continue to reflect that. So oftentimes, even when they're trying to get help, it's like, you're an addict, you're an addict, you're an addict, you're an addict trying to get help, you're an addict trying to overcome this thing. And when there's deeper work we can do to make transformations and life transitions and life decisions like that more simplified, by getting down into the spiritual context and recognizing that you are a divine infinite being having a human experience, that is your true identity. And the other things are just, they're exterior, they're just things, they're decisions we make. And that's where true transformation works too. And I love how this ties into self-care, because self-care is the same thing. It's like practices of self-care, which I love, like when you say it's not just having a bubble bath or eating chocolate or going for a massage, because it's like those are vehicles. But true self-care is this internal relationship with self. And those might be some vehicles that we express our care for our bodies, for ourselves. But the inner work is primary. It's first and foremost. It's underneath all of it, underneath the decisions we make, the habits we create, and our self-care. So that would be the other like huge piece in that, is self-identity. Like, how do you identify yourself?
And no matter how you do identify yourself, if it's not serving you, you can change it. That's the great thing. It's great news.
Yeah. Then life becomes a playground, because it's like, well, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? Like, what do I want to create?
Yeah. Well, you've expressed all of that really beautifully, Kat. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And I just really get a sense of how grounded you are in who you are, and how that drives you and your business and your passion. And I'm sure it's very magnetic for people to work with you. So if you have heard something that you want to know more about, Kat, whether it's the sexual healing or the moving through addiction or want to learn more about your book, where can people connect with you online, Kat?
Yeah, I would say first come to Instagram, and my handle is at KAT_TRIMARCO. I'm on there a lot. I share a lot of great like tips and tools and information that will help you understand your inner world more. And then you can pop on my website, which is www.cattrimarco.com. So again, that's KATTRIMARCO.com. And for anyone interested in the book, it's called Self-Approved, and it's on, you can order it worldwide on Amazon. You can just look up Self-Approved or look up Kat Trimarco, and I do take you through that whole transformation journey. But deeper than that, I teach the true tools and processes that I used internally during that time. So you don't have to be going through addiction recovery. It can be any area of your life that you're wanting to make a transition in or make a transformation in, and understand your purpose and your soul in a deeper way.
Beautiful. And I think you mentioned you have a gift on your website.
Yeah, I do have a free meditation to awaken and activate sexual energy. So that's more along the sex coaching side of things I do. It is specifically designed for women, but men, I've had men who do it as well, and they're like, it was really, really powerful and they enjoyed it too. So
well, from flirting with nature all the way to awakening sexual energy through meditation.
Yes.
Bookends on either side of our conversation. Kat, thank you so much for taking the time to share your energy with us and your thoughts and how you moved through this amazing journey. I deeply appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We are connecting people from all over the world. I get to see the statistics of where the show's being listened to, and it's over 30 countries. So that is very exciting to me. That means that so many people are opening up to the possibility of really prioritizing your own well-being, knowing that you can practice self-care, be who you are without a sense of guilt, and also this idea of courage, like a world filled with courageous people who are tuning into what they are longing for and acting on it. Whew, that is an exciting world. So thank you very much for tuning in. You can leave a comment if you like. You could like the episode. You could share it with a friend. These are all ways that we can get the word out to more people. You could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. So I encourage you to take some sort of action and get the word out, because I just want to live in a world filled with people who are practicing courageous self-care. Thanks again, Kat, for being here. And thank you for listening. I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.